Why do universities hire so many H1B workers? The root of the problem is more complicated and much larger than you might first think. It has entirely to do with the composition of the graduate student body in the United States. In fact, in several key fields, more PhDs are awarded each year to non-resident aliens than to US citizens, and US taxpayers are paying for them to be here. Over the last few months, State Representative Andrew Ireland has been highlighting that state universities in Indiana are hiring H1Bs, but I can tell you that it is a long-standing practice that extends nationwide. First, let me show you some of what Ireland has been complaining about, because similar things are almost certainly happening in your state. Then, I'll go over the numbers that explain why. In November, Ireland highlighted that Indiana University is planning to hire 2 foreigners as entry-level associate software engineers. India Reporter followed up saying, wild, they have 13 notices of intent to hire H1B E3 employees. That's not wild to me. That sounds like business as usual. Here, Ireland highlights that Purdue is hiring an H1B to teach marketing, points out that that same university even has a PhD program for marketing students. In another post, he says, taxpayer-funded Purdue University hired 258 foreign workers on H1B visas last year. That number includes basic tech jobs, student mental health therapists, and even a marketing professor in the greater Chicago area. State institutions should serve the people who fund them. India Reporter notes that you can add Notre Dame to the list. Yes, even private universities hire H1Bs. Ireland's posts have attracted media coverage. This article in the College Fix claims that Purdue and Indiana are both using H1B visas to fill data science and software engineering roles, despite Indiana's wealth of qualified American candidates. This College Fix story follows up on Ireland's tweets about the marketing position. It notes that the Purdue University system has hired 1,900 H1B workers since 2009. That's no surprise to me. Ireland has also drawn foreign coverage from the Times of India. In the last tweet I'm going to pull up, India Reporter takes note of a notice of intent to hire an H1B E3 employee by Indiana University, and he asks, why is IU hiring a $26,000 HB1 worker to work remotely from a brand new Carmel home instead of filling the role locally? To answer India Reporter's question, I'm going to start by talking about faculty hiring at research universities in the United States. These are universities that train PhD students. Indiana's School of Medicine is a research school headquartered in Indianapolis, and in this case, they have hired a tenure-track assistant professor. Tenure-track faculty are hired because they have developed a very specific, possibly unique, research expertise while earning their PhD. Because of that expertise, they are hired to do research, to teach graduate students how to do research, and to bring in research funding. Although these faculty do usually develop a course and teach a couple sections of undergraduates each year, they are primarily hired and promoted based on their potential and actual research impact. Their unique research expertise, especially in STEM fields, can be in high demand in both industry and academia, and academic jobs in STEM often do not pay as well. You have to want to be there. So what does the pool of tenure-track faculty candidates actually look like? These jobs require a PhD, so we can start by looking at the pool of PhD students in the United States. The National Science Foundation's National Center for Science and Engineering Statistics hosts a survey of earned doctorates that's updated each year. In Table 1-6, we can see that in 2024, there were 45,929 PhDs awarded in science and engineering. 16,738 of them went to temporary visa holders. That's 36% overall, but in certain fields, US citizens are actually in the minority. Those fields are computer and information sciences, engineering, and mathematics and statistics. From 2018 through 2024, 73% of PhD recipients on temporary visas stay in the US after graduation. That's in Table 2-8. I'm going to use computer science as an example since the Computing Research Association publishes some in-depth data. The Sierra Talby survey has been conducted each fall since 1974. According to the most recent survey results for 2023-2024, for computer science, computer engineering, and information science, 64.3% of the 2019 PhDs awarded by U.S. institutions went to non-resident aliens. This is up from 47.2% of 849 PhDs produced in 2001-2002. This is the faculty candidate pool for computer science. 2/3 are not U.S. citizens. So, thanks to the demographics of PhD students in the U.S., hiring an H1B may be the only option for a university to obtain a specific research expertise. In order to change the pool of faculty candidates, we need to address the PhD student pipeline. Graduate level education opportunities should largely go to U.S. citizens because U.S. taxpayers are paying for them. This is the larger scandal. Right now, state and federal U.S. taxpayer money supports a lot of foreign students in the form of teaching and research assistantship stipends. In STEM, these university jobs often come with a tuition waiver. So foreign graduate students often receive salaries paid with U.S. tax money, and they are often not paying any tuition. In computer science, most PhD students, foreign and domestic, receive some form of assistantship with tuition waiver. In the latest Talby survey, it is 72.5% of all students. That's 13,365 assistantship positions for 18,420 students enrolled in CS. Here's the math. 68.1% of PhD students enrolled in computer science in the US were non-resident aliens. What does this cost US taxpayers? At Purdue, for example, a starting CS research assistantship salary was $23,289 for the 2023-24 academic year. This is at 20 hours per week. This year, graduate international tuition and fees are $30,318 for CS. In CS, funding is usually guaranteed for 5 years. So that's $268,000 in total funding, largely provided by U.S. taxpayers per Purdue CS doctoral candidate over 5 years. Purdue graduated 40 PhDs in CS in 2023-24. If they graduate 40 per year, then they have roughly 200 PhD students. Assuming Purdue's demographics do not differ much from the national numbers, that's $26 million to foreign nationals over 5 years, or $5.2 million per year. Here's some math: Purdue's stipend and tuition over 5 years, Talby's demographic information, and a reasonable guess about the number of PhD students. Those US taxpayer dollars should support US citizens. If India or China want to pay for their students to study at US institutions, then, barring any national security issues, they should fund those students. US taxpayers shouldn't be funding their citizens. What can we do? Well, we can require foreign graduate students to be self-sufficient. Ban state and federal funds from supporting them. No teaching or research assistant positions that are funded through US tax money. No tuition waivers. Ban non-US citizens from being paid on federal grants like those from the NSF, NIH, DOE, and DARPA, which are often used both to pay students a research assistantship stipend and for their universities to recoup the cost of those students' tuition waivers. Please note that without being phased in or grandfathered in, this sort of change could trigger an existential crisis for STEM higher education in terms of finances and personnel, given our large foreign enrollments. Alternatively, we could restrict the number of foreign students who can pursue a PhD in the US. But President Trump has signaled that he is not going to reduce the number of Chinese students. Maybe this is tied to trade negotiations, or maybe he wants hostages if China attacks Taiwan. But why not a PhD quota? Indiana State Representatives Zach Payne and Andrew Ireland have introduced HB 1422 to try to address this issue. The bill has 3 major components. The first is to give hiring preferences to individuals who are citizens or nationals of the United States over aliens if the 2 individuals are equally qualified. The second mandates certain reporting requirements for state agencies or H1B visa hires. And the third provision is unrelated. It prohibits a state or political subdivision of Indiana from directly or indirectly funding services related to an immigration proceeding to an individual with unlawful status. Unfortunately, I don't see HB 1422 changing much for tenure-track faculty hiring beyond increasing the amount of administrative paperwork that university staff will need to do. I don't think that it would be desirable or possible to have the Attorney General's office or a court to try to independently evaluate the research contributions of tenure-track faculty candidates and determine who is, quote-unquote, more qualified to meet an academic department's needs. But you might ask me about H-1B hires who are not tenure-track faculty. There are a few different kinds of people who I saw get hired when I was staff at a public research university. Some are postdoctoral researchers. These are PhD graduates who are hired for their specific research expertise, usually for a period of 1 or 2 years, to do research. Some are spouses of tenure-track faculty candidates. Competition for those candidates is fierce. If a university can also offer a position to the candidate's spouse, that can put them ahead of competitors in negotiations. Some are filling teaching-oriented positions like lecturer or teaching professor. Those positions may require a PhD, but they are more interchangeable. Some are recently graduated students who are staying to fill a hole. For example, if a key faculty member left the university, is on sabbatical, or had a major medical event, one of the recent graduates who is familiar with their courses might be hired to fill the gap and teach for a semester. All of this H-1B hiring that I just mentioned is a predictable downstream consequence of PhD student demographics. To sum up, research universities hire tenure-track faculty based on their unique research expertise, not on their ability to teach undergraduates. The US trains a lot of foreign PhD students, so the faculty candidate pool has a lot of H-1Bs with that experience. Foreign graduate students are very often paid salaries and tuition waivers using US taxpayer funding. Foreign students shouldn't get US taxpayer funding to study here, they should pay their own way. Change this dynamic to change the pool of faculty candidates, change the system, and give more opportunities to US citizens. You can find all of my sources for this video linked in the description below. This has been commentary from Beyond 465. If you thought that this video was helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. If not, thank you for listening. Bye-bye.